say right here. Okay, task 1, Psi Infusion. It just... When I play tasks, I double soak a lot. SL games are largely won by like which team just does basic macro better. And if you hella clear waves, it gives your team time to roam. It just gives you XP advantages. It's really easy. This also has nice synergy with later talents and just gives you a lot more ability to stand back. I basically play Tassadar with like three big things in mind. I want to clear a lot of waves. I want to stand stupid far back during fights and just be like really safe. And I want to hit value walls. Okay, I want to do those 3 things. And Psi Infusion lets me clear waves and stay super far back. Electric Fence makes your walls just way more impactful. Like even if they go around the wall, like Electric Fence still slows around it. So it's even harder to walk around the wall. Like it's insane. And 92 DPS at level 0 is actually quite a bit. Electric Fence simply just does a very significant amount of damage. Because guys, think about this. Okay, this is 92 DPS. And wall lasts 2 seconds. So that is 182 damage, I want to say, if my math is right. 182 damage is a non-negligible amount of damage. And then you also add in 35% slow, which is fucking huge. And there's also a lot of synergy with Force Barrier, which I end up taking later. Psi Infusion, Force, or Electric Fence, Psionic Echo. Again, this just plays into the playstyle that I do. I just sit really far back. And I also like how Psi Infusion lets you do Psionic Echo from like just stupid long ranges where you're regularly hitting people at literally max range. Whereas if you don't have Psi Infusion, then the W range can be a little bit of a bottleneck and you have to step up a little more. And I hate stepping up because you're one of the squishiest characters in the game and you're also one of the most immobile characters in the game. So I want to be really far back and I want to be doing big damage. And the way you play this, especially with Psionic Echo, because you have to hit that Q, and the difference between hitting the Q and not is like several hundreds of damage, because you're not only thinking about the Q damage, you're also thinking about the recasted W under their feet. So you really want to make sure that you're doing this off of your tank's CC. And that's why like a lot of times during that last game, I kept talking about like, oh, I'm waiting for the Anubrak to go in. I'm trying to do off Anubrak. And if you like watch, I specifically wait either for my wall to set up a combo, and also Electric Fence sets up Psionic Echo, because even if they're on your wall, they can sidestep your Psionic Echo, but if they're slowed by 35%, then they can't. So I'm either waiting for my wall with Electric Fence to set up a Psionic Echo, or I'm waiting for one of my teammates with CC to set it up, and then I just combo that person and I do a shitload of damage from really far away. Archon is just super solid. Like, it just gives you more survivability, gives you more damage, minus spell armor's insane, slow's insane. Like, the slow's not as insane, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just a big ball of stats. You know, like, it's kind of hard to explain why getting a bunch of stats is good. It's just good. And also it gives you something to do in teamfights when your abilities are on cooldown. Black Hole I do think is a good ability, it's just not really my playstyle. 13, Shadow Walk. It is, you can use the move speed offensively to chase people down with wall. You also use it defensively to escape, and a lot of stuff in this game, if you suddenly turn it invisible, like a lot of stuff is countered by that, like a lot of like random obscure stuff. Like for example, Cassia Lightning Ball, if it's bouncing towards you and you turn on Shadow Walk, it just disappears. Literally, the ball just disappears. If it's bouncing to someone who becomes stealthed, you just eat Lightning Ball. So, or like for example, Diablo can't shadow charge you if he can't click on you because you're stealthed. So like, you just become harder to dive, you have more ability to chase people down with walls, you have more ability to escape, it counters a lot of like random specific stuff, it's all really good. 16, I default to Psychic Shock. And this tier is kind of controversial for like a lot of reasons. Basically, Psychic Shock, what you need to know about this is Psionic Storm deals damage 25% faster. This is a damage increase. It doesn't just mean the damage happens faster. It means that also there are more ticks of damage at the end of the W cast. W ramps up in damage as it deals damage, so this makes it ramp up faster, and it also means that your Ws get a shitload more damage. I did the math one time, and Psychic Shock is equivalent, I want to say, to a 43% damage boost on your W. It's like way better than the text makes it sound. You might not even think it increases the damage of your W at all, just makes it deal damage faster, but no. You get a lot more damage out of Psychic Shock. And basically the only time I ever don't go Psychic Shock is if my team is like full single target burst. Which to be fair, we kind of were looking at this comp, and maybe I should have gone Thermal Lance as a result. But I think the only time that Psychic Shock is ever not the pick is when you're just blowing somebody up with Thermal Lance, and Thermal Lance will be more instantaneous burst. The thing is, if they sit in the entire W, a lot of times Psychic Shock will still be more damage than Thermal Lance. It just won't be quite as instant. And Psychic Shock especially will be more damage once you factor in that Psionic Echo is a thing at level 7. Executor's Will is low-key bad. Like, just like Psychic Shock is way better than its tooltip seems, Executor's Will is way worse than its tooltip seems. So, especially when you're using Archon, Executor's Will gets significantly better when you're playing Black Hole. Because look at Executor's Will, okay? Like, look at all the things it does. It maxes out your trait, it gives you 20% spell power, and it causes your basic and heroic ability cooldowns to regenerate 25% faster. The effect lasts as long as your trait is maxed out. Okay, now let's think about this. When you press Archon, which is what you're going to be spending a lot of team fights doing, like a lot of the team fight in Archon form, when you press Archon, Archon maxes out your Resonance Beam. So that effect is redundant with Archon. It's doing nothing. Okay, so we can scratch out that part during Archon. 20% spell power. 20% spell power sounds nice, and it definitely is a non-negligible increase, but the thing is, I mentioned earlier how W's damage ramps up. Psionic Storm, every time it damages someone, it increases in damage. The increasing spell power in Tassadar only modifies the base damage of Psionic Storm. It does not increase the increased damage. You know what I mean? It doesn't multiply the ramped damage of Psionic Storm, only the very small base damage. So spell power is deceptively not as strong as you might expect on Tassadar, because your biggest damaging ability, especially in this W-focused build that I've gone with W at 1 and 7, spell power isn't doing as much as you might think. So you scratch out the first line. The first line's not doing anything while you have Archon. 20% spell power is not as much as it sounds like. And then cause basic and heroic ability cooldowns to regenerate 25% faster. Well, Archon's cooldown doesn't start ticking down until Archon ends. Archon's cooldown, the way it is coded, is that when Archon ends, it sets the cooldown to 90 seconds. So Executor's Will, the cooldown, the heroic cooldown reduction is doing nothing the entire time Archon is up, and it's only doing something in between Archon casts. Which is nice, you know what I mean? It means you have Archon up more often for the team fight, but like, and then even the basic ability cooldowns, for example, Shock Ray, the cooldown is slightly longer for Shock Ray than you might think, because the cooldown doesn't start while you're channeling the Q, it only starts when you end the Q. So cooldown reduction isn't doing anything while you're channeling the Q. You have a short period of time where your Q is up, you're channeling the Q, and nothing is going out. Like, there's just a bunch of these tiny little things where, like, the trait part doesn't do anything, the spell power is less impactful than you might think it is, the basic ability cooldown reduction is less impactful than you think it is, the heroic cooldown reduction doesn't do anything while Archon is active. Like, Executor's Will has all these different effects that are just low-key not very effective. Especially if you're playing Archon. I think that if you are playing Black Hole, and you have a comp that can expect to take long fights, then I could see the argument for it, but in reality I just default Psychic Shock, Thermal Lance if we're going full burst. And then 20. I go Force Barrier almost every single game. This is just a like ridiculously game-winning talent in my opinion. Like, this is, you saw, like, I made so many plays just that very last game that we just played. The ability to spam Force Wall super low CD across the screen, and it lasts longer. It also benefits from Electric Fence. Like, it just wins games. Like, straight up, the utility is insane. And so people always ask me, you know, they're like, yeah, we get it, you like Force Barrier, but what about Twilight Archon? And the thing about Twilight Archon is, I want you to think about it like this. So Archon lasts 12 seconds. And Twilight Archon, which is every time you auto-attack while you're in Archon, it adds 2 seconds to Archon's duration. This can't push Archon over the cap of 12 seconds. So if you're like at 12 seconds and you're just autoing, it'll be like 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. And so For the first 12 seconds of the team fight, nothing changes when you have Twilight Archon. Like, think about it this way. For 12 seconds after you press Archon, Twilight Archon has not done anything. All of the value is in the future. And then once you hit the 12-second mark, that's when Twilight Archon starts working. That's when it starts to do something. Marlo, I don't know what the fuck you're going on about in the chat. I've been reading all of it, and I don't know how to respond to it, but okay. So Twilight Archon can be very, very good in certain situations. Because, like, for example, if you need to just say, we're going to lock down this area for, like, the next minute, Twilight Archon's insane. So, like, you can win it. You can use it to win, like, Infernal Shrine's objective, for example, because you can just pop it. And the enemy team now knows that throughout the entire objective, there will be an Archon. And in those situations, it can be really, really big. But in any situation where your fight is going to be... Thanks for the sub, Marlo. Appreciate you, 6 months. In my opinion, any situation where the fight's not going to be like at least 20 seconds long, I just don't see the argument for Force Barrier, or for Twilight Archon over Force Barrier. It only starts to do something 12 seconds after you press Archon. And so you need a significant amount of time past 12 seconds for this to be better than Force Barrier. And keep in mind, Force Barrier is doing something from the start of the fight. And it's not just doing like something, it is winning the game. Especially if you're into certain tanks who are really vulnerable to wall, such as Johanna, especially Johanna with Blessed Shield, which was the Johanna that we just played against in the last game right here. And you can see there were multiple times throughout this game where the Johanna was trying to engage on us and just like running at us, and I would wall her, and she wouldn't be able to do anything. Most commonly, this also really shuts down Garrosh, Blaze, Mal'Ganis, like not as much like Tyrael or Nubarak, for example, right? Because they can just hop over. But if you're against like Garrosh, Blaze, Mal'Ganis, Uther, even Stitches, etc., like a lot of the tank roster just gets shut down by that wall spam. And I just don't ever pick Google Blitz or Kala's Gift. And that's how I built Tassadar. There you go, start to finish.
It is good to see you again.